Welcome to the Vocation of Business Leader podcast. I'm Greg Balster. Here we explore how Catholic leaders let Christ and the teachings of the church he founded guide their work, integrating faith and business. Each episode offers inspiring stories to help you live an undivided life. Let's meet our guest, Jack Beers, founder of the Catholic Mentor. Welcome, Jack.
It's great to be with you, Greg. Thanks so much for having me.
You bet. Hey, will you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So I grew up in what I like to say is God's favorite state on earth, New Jersey.
Okay.
It's the Garden State. My dad's Jewish, my mom's Episcopalian, so I was lucky. You know, I got Christmas, got Hanukkah, got all the Jewish holidays, all the Christian holidays. But it was a relationship with God that was sort of guided by my parents as we don't care how you talk to God. We just want you to. And then when I was 17, I met a pretty girl, started going to church, started going to mass with her, really fell in love with the history of the church, really fell in love with the teaching of the church, but most importantly, had a really profound and personal encounter with God in the context of the Catholic Church. Ended up coming into the church. Things didn't work out with the girl, but they worked out with the church. Came into the church in 2012. I came into church in 2012, so just about 13 years ago. And I thought I was going to be a sports broadcaster. I thought I was going to do play-by-play for the New York Mets. Howie Rose is my hero, and he's the current play-by-play voice of the Mets. And then came into the church, the sacraments got involved, and really felt God was calling me to work in ministry. And so I spent the first 10 years in the world of evangelization, primarily mass evangelization, so trying to reach lots of people with a little bit of content. And then I've spent the last 2.5 years working in this area of personal accompaniment through the Catholic Mentor. I'm trained to walk with people in sort of an elevated form of spiritual direction and therapy.
So how were you called to Catholic ministry?
All the way back in the day, all the way back in 2012, 2013.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it just sort of happened for me. It just sort of happened. I have an interesting story, and people were really, especially at that time, were fascinated with someone who is 21 years old and made the decision to join the Catholic faith. People would be like, "That's weird. Why are you doing that? You know, this is not the time and place for people to join the faith. This is the time when everybody else is running from it. So what are you doing?" And so people just started inviting me to give talks at parishes, talks to youth groups, talks to confirmation programs. And I just started doing it and started getting more and more opportunities to do it. And then I started getting job offers from nonprofits to come in and work in events, or to come and work in fundraising, or to come and work in content creation and things like that. So it kind of just sort of happened. The other thing is, like, I am not, I always talk about this with my wife. One of the things that we're most similar in is we're not subtle people. You know, we don't have a subtle bone in our body.
Uh-huh.
And so I really felt like my whole life I gave up so much to become Catholic. It was like there was not something I could ever turn off. Wanting to talk about the Catholic faith, wanting to talk about Jesus, wanting to help people get a little bit better in their lives. It was just every part of me was invested in that, and every part of me was involved in that. And so everything else seemed like it was black and white, where ministry was like living in color. And so it really felt as if God had been calling me in that way, through energy and enthusiasm, ultimately.
Wow. What a blessing. So what do your parents think of you being Catholic?
Now or then?
Now. I guess both. Yeah, both. Let's do both.
So I have great parents, and it's become a real trend a horrible trend, one of the worst trends of our modern culture, for kids to essentially disown their parents, to cast an undue amount of blame on their parents, and to basically be like, all my problems are your fault. You have no idea what you're doing, and you were a terrible parent, even if they were a really good one. And it was also a trend for a long time for parents to be really sort of dominant on their kids, like my way or the highway. And neither of us, neither my parents nor myself, have taken that on in either direction, right? It was rocky. My parents didn't understand it. My mom was like, you should be a minister. So like be anything other than Catholic, like that. It just doesn't make any sense. Um, my dad, at the time I was the last male Beers, in the family. So he felt a lot of duty and responsibility for the Beers name to continue with Jewish heritage. So he was really, really upset and disappointed. My dad is also the best man at my wedding, so relationship continued through tension, which is a really rare thing in the modern era, is being able to maintain relationship through tension. But thankfully, we were all committed to it.
Yeah, that's great. So it's a lot better now.
Yeah, it's always been good. Hard at different times, harder at some times than others, but always been good. Yeah.
So, how did you decide to become a mentor?
So there's multiple reasons. So personal and professional. Professionally speaking, in the world of sharing the faith, started to realize that conversations that I could have with people in 2015, like somebody who's on the fringe of their faith, who goes to mass every single Sunday or 3 times a month, but has no idea why they're there. Like, you're just there because you're there. That's just what you do. Like, you just go to mass and you tolerate it and whatever. And if something comes up, you don't go to mass, but for the most part, you don't have anything else to do. And it's a good thing conceivably to go to church, and your parents went to church and you go to church and your wife goes to church. So I'm just going to go to church, right? Like that individual, if I was going to go have a conversation with that individual, I could have a real conversation about the merits of confession in 2015. The majority of people who are in that space, I could be like, what's your experience of confession? And most of them would be like, I haven't been in years. And I could talk about it from a personal development perspective. Like, everybody needs a coach to be excellent at anything. And going to confession is like having a coach for your spiritual life. Like, you go in, you say, hey, here are the things I'm struggling with. Here are the things I'm not doing well. How do I do better at them? And obviously confession is more than having a coach toward being excellent. But as an entry path to talking about the value of confession, so that you get into the confession, then you experience the spirituality of it. You experience the integrated component of confession, which is not really explainable. The impact of mercy is sort of unexplainable. It could have that conversation. Now, anybody under the age of 40, it's very rare to be able to have a conversation where me and the other person have a common understanding of what it means to be human. So many people under the age of 40 have basically a belief that the mind is the storehouse of truth. That whatever it is I think in my mind or feel in my body is true. And I have a truth and you have a truth. So if I feel offended, you were offensive.
Right.
If I feel like it would be best for me to live with my girlfriend, then it is true. If I feel like it's really enjoyable for me to watch porn and to masturbate, then it must be true. And there's nothing there. There's no counter to it. If I feel a certain emotion, that means I am that emotion. So you'll hear people be like, I am anxious, as opposed to a part of me feels anxious.
Right.
It becomes identity. And I found I couldn't really have faith-based direct conversations anymore without having to go through feelings and thoughts as sources as truth. And I had no idea how to have that conversation with people. Someone was like, I am too anxious to go to church on Sunday, or I'm anxious and I'm trying to pray it away and it's not working. Like, how do I have this conversation with you? Or a parent who comes and they're like, you know, I gave birth to a son who's telling me that he's now a woman. Like, what do I do with that? And those are really, really hard questions. So professionally, I started being pushed in the direction of I need to understand the psycho-spiritual realm and how they integrate with one another. I need to sit at the feet of the greatest Catholic psychologist ever, I think, John Paul II, and understand the way he integrated spirituality and psychology. I also became a parent in 2020, and our firstborn son struggled a lot with social emotional challenges. I mean, he was born literally 6 weeks into the shutdown of the pandemic.
Yeah.
And that comes with consequences. And I was like, I have no idea how to hold space for my son.
Mm-hmm.
I have no idea how to handle what I'm seeing and what's happening here. And my wife is going through a lot, and I have no idea how to help her. So
Yeah.
I actually need to grow. My capacity to love my family needs to expand. And so I ended up finding a training through the Catholic Psych Institute and Dr. Greg Bottaro to be trained in and certified in John Paul II's applied personalism, to be able to accompany people one-on-one, integrating sound psychology with authentic Catholic spirituality and anthropology, which is a lot of words for me to be able to be like, I got really good at loving people no matter where they are.
Yeah. So how is the Catholic mentor different than executive coach, spiritual direction, and a therapist?
So you could say that it's an experience of all three in a singular context. So one of the differences, let's say in coaching. So when you get a coach, you want to get better in a specific area. It's like, I want to get faster, or I want to increase emotional intelligence, or I need a coach to help me strategically plan for my business. Like, you have a target, right? And so it's helpful to have goals, and it's helpful to have somebody who helps you make progress in goals. That's useful, but it's not everything, because sometimes your obstacle to achieving those goals is not mindset. It's a spiritual obstacle, or it's a relational obstacle that exists within you, or it's a psychological obstacle. So then you have your therapist for the psychology, right? And so you can understand, why do I do the things that I do? Why do I get in my own way? Why do I procrastinate on work? Or why do I seem to always get defensive every time my wife says anything even remotely critical? Like, why do I do that? Okay, so you got the psychology. And then you've got the spirituality, which is not only does it contain the best way to live, but we're broken in relationship and we're healed in relationship. So for us to get better and to heal, we need to be in relationship with something that heals us. God. God and his perfection, God and his love. So it brings everything together in one. So if you and I were to work together on something like, you want better communication with your wife, there would be a coaching aspect, there'd be a psychological inventory, and then there would be a spiritual dynamic in play as well. The other difference is that the modality is different. It's daily. Like, I walk with people every single day. We exchange a message every single day. So I'm in people's world. It's not like it's, 1 50-minute session every other week where we spend 80% of it catching up on what's happening, but we're actually just constantly and perpetually in the dial.
Do you think that you're an empath?
No, absolutely not. No. Empathy, there are people who are naturally inclined toward empathy, and it is part of the female genius for most women, that there's a natural inclination to be able to feel what other people feel and relate to them. But no, I'm not.
Yeah.
Not even close.
Yeah, like most males.
Yeah, no, I'm not an empath. That's a skill I've had to learn, empathy.
Yeah. So who's mentorship for?
So the mentorship work that I do is I work with, I like to talk about it, of people who keep running into a hidden obstacle that is preventing them from being who God made them to be. And they've tried other things and it just hasn't worked. So this manifests itself in a lot of different ways. Like, I can't quite seem to love my wife well, or I'm addicted to porn, um, or I have this dream and I have all of these negative thoughts that are preventing me from getting after that dream, or my anxiety is crippling and I don't know what to do with it. So all those things fall into the same banner of there's a hidden obstacle. I've tried to do it on my own. I've tried to do it maybe with other coping mechanisms, and I can't quite seem to do it. And I could use some help, which is the tale of human history. Like all of the great spiritual masters, pretty much all of them had a spiritual director, because it's really hard to see your own stuff within you and grow from it. You actually need somebody who helps you to see your own self before you can grow.
What would you say are some common misconceptions about holiness and spiritual growth?
Wow, it's okay. Holiness and spiritual growth. Number one is that the number one misconception of holiness is that holiness is for a select number of people. Holiness is the word we use to describe people who are who God made them to be, and who are close to God, in close relationship with them. It's the word when you're hanging out with Mother Teresa and you're like, wow, there's somebody different. Like this person is different and it's palpable. She's closer to God than anybody I've ever met. And she's also more authentically, uniquely herself than anybody I've ever met. How do I describe that? Well, how you describe that is holy. So there's this perception that it's like, man, holiness is for a select number of people. So that's number one. Number two is that in order to be holy, you have to be holy all of the time. And it's not true. If you think about the greatest moment of your life, like when you can think back and look on it and go, that's my greatest moment of love ever. Like you stood up for the bully when you were 10, or you walked with your parent through the loss of their life, and you showed up every single day as they were dying, and you were just there, and you just loved them, and you loved them heroically. Like all of those are holy things. Like when you call up a friend because you know that they have a big interview that day, and you call them up in the morning and you're like, I'm going to encourage you to do your best and to be your best. That's holy. When you remember that it's like your mom's birthday and you send her a card, that's holy. It's a holy thing to do. When you pray in the morning, that's holy. When you go to mass on Sunday, that's holy. When you read something that's a great spiritual reading, that's holy. So if you can be holy in a moment, you can actually be holy in many moments. And if you can be holy in many moments, then you can be holy over the course of a longer amount of time. You can be a holy person. The third one is holy does not mean perfection. You can be flawed and still be holy. Jose Maria Escriva is a saint, and he was known until his death as having a terrible temper. He was not perfect, right? So holiness is not perfection. And then spiritual growth. This is the last one I'll give you. Holiness and spiritual growth. We think we can be stagnant. We think we can be where we are and stay where we are. But you're either growing or dying. Your soul is either expanding or contracting. So like St. Thomas Aquinas, St. John Paul II, St. Therese of Lisieux, they all doctors of the church except John Paul II, at least not yet. They all talked about the greatness of the soul, and that every decision you make either expands or constricts your soul. So every decision you make matters because it expands or constricts your soul. So your capacity for love, your capacity for life, your capacity for virtue expands and contracts on a decision by decision basis. So every single person who's listening to this right now, your decisions are causing you to grow spiritually or to have spiritual atrophy every day, every moment, every day, everything you go through, it's impacting it. So no matter what you do, even if you try to avoid it, you're either declining or thriving, or you're moving in one of those directions at least.
Yeah. What are some common obstacles to becoming the man that, or the woman that you're supposed to be?
Phew. I mean, how long do you have? Common obstacles. So,
Life.
yeah, life is a common obstacle to growing. So there's the fundamental one. So let's start at the fundamental one. The fundamental one is in the Garden of Eden, Adam and Eve, uh, there was harmony. There was harmony within themselves. There was harmony with one another. There was harmony with nature, and there was harmony with God. And God was completely and totally the secure base of Adam and Eve. So Adam and Eve had no fear. They had no defense mechanisms. They had no defensiveness. They were completely free to give and receive love and be in harmony with everything and everyone around them. Then the fall happens, death comes into play, and now we need defense mechanisms. Now we need fight, flight, or freeze, because if we see bear enthusiasts always get mad at me for saying this. When we see the bear, we should run. There's only a certain type of bear that you should run from. I know that bear enthusiasts just, put in the comment section which bear you should lay dead for and which one you should run from. But you get the point. When you're in danger, you want flight, And if you're backed into a corner, you want fight because it's good for you to live. It's good for you to be alive. So at a fundamental level, we were all born good. And then the fall happens and we end up doing things not for our good out of fear of being abandoned, out of fear of being hurt, out of fear of dying, out of fear of loneliness, out of all different kinds of fears. And over the course of time, John Paul II calls this the school of love of what you're born into. Like the family structure that you're born into. So over time, you learn how to respond given certain circumstances. And that response is driven often by fear, creating your defense mechanisms. So if your wife does criticize you and your immediate reaction is to run away or to freeze or to start fighting with your words, like that has an origin. And so that fundamentally creates a lot of obstacles to becoming who God made you to be, or as John Paul II would say, become who you are. Like who you are is locked within you, and it's on the other side of these defense mechanisms and these habits and these other things. So that's I'll give the answer as like the core reason. There's lots of manifestations of that. There's negative self-talk, there's improper relationship with thoughts, there's abusive relationship, there's all kinds of stuff. But at its core, that's kind of what's happening.
Yeah. So how can your work make a difference in the lives of business leaders?
Yeah, well, business leaders are in the business of relationships. No matter what business you're in the business of relationships, and who you work with and how you work with them is almost everything, right? Like if you create parts for planes, let's say you're a manufacturer of parts for planes, and you automate a lot of stuff, and there's people are on assembly lines and things along those lines. Your ability to create a quality product and to gain market share is still determined by the people on the ground doing the work, by the people that are doing the selling, and by the way that everybody feels about the company and about you. And the same is true for everybody who's working within the organization. It's like if you don't just want to be on the assembly line, well, the obstacle from getting from where you are to where you want to be is a relational one. Part of it is adding value to the organization, but how you add value and how you understand that you add value and how you add value consistently is relational. relational with yourself and relational with other people and relational with God. So I help you get really, really healthy as a relational being. And the moment that happens, you're way ahead of 98% of everybody else in your field.
Right. Yeah. Will you tell us about your RISE program?
Sure. Rise to the occasion is a concept that is constantly evolving for me. It's really a deep dive into the fundamentals of what it means to make the most of your life. And so it's this. I offered it, at different lengths at different times, but right now it's a 30-day experience. Really get to the bottom of what is standing between you and who God made you to be. Because Greg, what's limiting your potential right now. I know what's limiting my potential right now. Knowing that and then being able to overcome it are two different things. Same as knowing that and knowing where it comes from so you can get over the top of it is a different thing. So I help people come in and they have a particular challenge that is preventing them from becoming who they are. And we do a targeted deep dive into that thing for 30 days. And at a minimum, reveal the hidden nature and motivation behind it so that you can then get on the path to freedom.
That sounds really good.
It's not bad. Yeah, it's usually like people will come in with like they can't say no to food, right? They keep saying no. They can't say no to food, or they can't say no to the things that they watch on their phone, or they can't say no to themselves when they blow up at their spouse. It's that type of thing. It's like I can't say no to this thing, and I really need to gain freedom.
And they can usually accomplish that in 30 days?
They can accomplish understanding why they do what they do, which is half the battle in 30 days. I can tell you where it comes from and why you do it. Because most people are like, oh, it's this terrible thing. I've just got to stop. And a part of you doesn't think it's terrible. A part of you thinks it's necessary for your survival. So until you understand why that part of you thinks that and have compassion toward that part and have curiosity toward that part, it's going to be running around like a chicken with its head cut off. You have to get to that place first. So I help you get to that place. And then, most people from there's lots of resources to help you keep going. Some people are like, I need to keep doing this work. And that's when we do longer term one-on-one work.
So where can people go to find out more about you and the Catholic Mentor?
thecatholicmentor.com. I try to keep it as simple as I can. I think you also found me on LinkedIn. So I do a lot of posting on LinkedIn as well. Mm-hmm. So you can look me up at Jack Beers at LinkedIn, or you can go to thecatholicmentor.com.
Is there anything that I didn't ask you that you'd like to talk about?
What brought you to be so passionate about this particular topic?
About my podcast?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I have a real heart for men's ministry, and I love my faith and I love business, and men's ministry made a big difference in my early married life. And there's so many Catholic professionals that live a divided life. They go to church on Sunday, but they are purely secular during the work week, and so I'm like, how can I tie these together? And so I wanted to interview, Catholic leaders that are living the undivided life to be an encouragement to Joe Catholic that's in the pew that you can live a undivided life, integrated faith and work life. And so that's where
it's beautiful. Yeah. I think it's my perspective on that is you're a shell of who you could be if you don't. That's usually what I share with people is like, I'm not going to lie to you. It is hard. It is tricky. A friend of mine is going to work every day at a secular law firm and hearing about how horrible men are every day and hearing about how toxic faith is and how it's for, basically people with no brain.
Mm-hmm.
And he's a newbie there, and he doesn't want to raise his hand, but he's also feeling really isolated and really lonely in that context. And in walking with him and relieving him of the pressure of like, you don't have to convert these women.
Right.
It's not your responsibility to convert these women.
Mm-hmm.
It's worth examining why their comments impact you the way that they do, and why it encourages you to be small in relationship to them. When the reality is authentic you, not proselytizing you. You're not standing up on top of your desk being like, repent and believe in the gospel. But why an authentic you who is joyful, purposeful, successful is going to be the honey that catches the bees way better than if you were to get into an aggressive conflict or to meet them where they're at with their style of I'm right and you're wrong. It's like let the content of your character and the strength of your personhood and your freedom be like, what does that guy have that I don't? That's one of the best ways to do it. You don't have to hide your Catholic faith. You also don't have to stand up on top of a desk and become a St. Paul and an evangelist. Not everybody's called to that.
Yeah. And when they understand that you're Catholic, they're going to watch you. They're going to watch you to see if you are what you or what you believe, or are you just another hypocrite. And
guess what? You are another hypocrite. You are.
mm-hmm.
I am.
Yeah.
Greg, you are, right?
Yeah.
Faith is an aspiration. Jesus is an aspiration. Being in relationship with him and reflecting him to the world is aspirational, right? So, yeah, I'm going to fall short. What really makes a great Christian is the ability to be like, yeah, I fell short. I'm sorry. Or, yeah, I am trying to get better at that. Lord knows where I'd be if Jesus didn't help me get where I am now. I would be 10 times worse. Can you imagine? The people who are in the secular world feel like they have a claim on imperfection and that they can use the imperfection of Christians against them. And Christians don't have a claim on perfection. Christians have a claim on mercy and redemption. And so we don't have to be afraid of making mistakes because we're going to make them. What we need to be afraid of, and what Jesus tells us to be afraid of, is like, beware of the things that corrupt you, that can destroy the soul as well as the body.
Mm-hmm.
Not just the things that can destroy the body, I should say. It's like, what can destroy the soul and take the body with it? Resentment, bitterness, pretending to be a form of perfection that you're not.
Right.
Those things can kill you.
Mm-hmm.
So be merciful. Be as full of integrity as you can. Like, imperfection is not a stick you can hit me with because I already know I'm imperfect.
Right.
What do you think of that? Does that land with you?
Oh, absolutely. The church is not for, it's a hospital. It's not a club of holy people. It's a hospital for sinners. We all need a savior. We all need redemption. We all need to forgive. Because what they say, like resentment is like drinking poison and hoping the other person dies. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. No, it's totally true. And it's really hard to do that. It's really hard when you feel like you're under a microscope and you feel like you have to be perfect to represent the entirety of the Catholic faith, but you don't. And this is the other thing about it. It's like God's in charge of that person's soul, not you.
Right.
And if that person comes to Christ, it will be because of Christ, not because of you. You could get in the way. You can be a helping hand along the way. But ultimately, like, that person is not your responsibility. And I think a lot of people feel tons of pressure.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's all on me. I have to answer everything perfectly. It's all on me to get this person into the faith. And it's not. You may just be there to plant a seed. You may just be there because, one day there's a critical moment in their life and they're really emotional, and that you say, do you mind if I pray for you right now? And the person is like, no, I don't mind if, and then you do it. And they thought, wow, what an act of kindness.
Mm-hmm.
What an act of empathy. And that's the only seed that you're meant to plant. You're not supposed to help them understand why there's evil in the world and God is good. Like, you may not be the one for that. You may be, but you may not be either. And there's a humility in playing the role God gives you to play, which can be hard.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's to your yes.
Yeah. Yeah. A friend of mine says this all the time. Your best ability is availability.
There you go.
Being available to God and letting him work through you in the best way you can. And I think my friend is totally right.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's good. All right.
Well, it was great talking to you, Greg.
It was great talking to you, Jack. And so I will put the link to the Catholic Mentor in the show notes, and I encourage people to check it out. All right. Thank you for joining us today's episode of the Vocation Business Leader Podcast. We hope you found inspiration as we explore the powerful union of faith and business. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, share it, and leave a review. Until next time, may God guide your work and help you witness his love in all you do. God bless.